Okay, this is a video. We're going to do the first decan of Scorpio today. It's the coronavirus issue. Call it Kronos virus, or the Kronos problem. But these images here, I'm showing you the decans on either side of the first decan of Scorpio. All three decans of Scorpio there on the bottom, and the preceding decan, third decan Libra. Very important because it's a huge transition from third decan Libra to first decan Scorpio. This is a very specific time frame in which the traits, qualities, stories, everything, it's extremely noticeable. So you can find this anywhere. It's one of the markers. I call it the calibration spots in mythology, literature, any of these series of images which I use to discern the decans and convert them into modern examples of real people. The images here are the Hindu images from 500 CE. First decan Scorpio is bottom left, second decan center, third decan right. And at the top, like I said, that's Hermes. And what I'm going to show you is, this is Aphrodite. The first decan of Scorpio is Aphrodite, but really it's kind of second decan Scorpio too. But these are the daughters of all kinds of myths, and there's a lot here. This is going to be a load. This is a full boat of what I'm going to put in this video right here. This is a full boat. And I hope by the end we're going to see that this sun sign of Scorpio and the decans of it have been villainized a little bit. I don't really find any scorpions in Scorpio. I find a naked woman. I find a tower, and then I find a lion. And the only thing that's close to the scorpion is the lion decan, which he has a hook on his tail, and that hook on his tail comes up over and over. And we're not going to do that one day. I'm just saying I don't find a lot of scorpions. So we're going to see what the animals actually are. There's a lot to it. The third decan of Libra is the body of a monkey and the head of a horse. This is the heroes. This is Hunamun, or Hunaman, the monkey god. This is the hero that rescues the princess. This is what he's always doing. He's keeping track of things. He's writing down truth. He's carving it into stone. And the first decan of Scorpio is Aphrodite. And Aphrodite flows into the second decan. There's two female snake decans in a row. Snake is passion. And I don't know. Let's look at the examples, see where they take us. I think we're going to find that our perceptions of the zodiac are going to change when we examine these 10-day time periods one at a time using ancient information. These images are from 500 CE, so I don't know. Let's go to it. So this is Dolphin Decan, October 23rd to November 2nd. The descriptor from the Hindu, which I think is also in the Bhagavad Gita. You have to look for it. There's all they have are these little brief descriptors, but you know, the people who study this stuff understand that you keep the descriptor small because what you're looking for are the human examples. But on the right is the image from the 36 views of Mount Fuji, number 20. This is also the 20th decan minus the warning decans, which are always listed at the end. Number 20 is a pair of ships. I've got a weird appendage on the front. Doesn't seem to have any function, so it's got to be symbolic. But they are loaded up. They've got some guys looking out the window. That's something to note. They've got wind in their sails. They're delivering things. Or something. Something's coming across the ocean in those ships. So I think the best thing to start this video is I want to read a passage from a book called The Greek Gods by Evslin and Hoops. I don't know when this was written. Let's see, when was this written? I don't even know. Yeah, okay. Long time ago. Anyway, so this is the story of Aphrodite when Kronos, again, don't forget, it's the Cronus virus edition. Kronos chops up Uranus at the behest of his wife. She gives him a sickle. He chops him up, throws him in the ocean, and then this foam washes up on the seashore, and this woman comes out of the sea, and then she's taken to this big hall by Poseidon and his horses. Very specific. And then she calls for immediately for this woman who appears out of the waves and shows up in the hall completely naked, still dripping wet from the ocean, just got born into the world, and says, we got to marry this girl off. We really need to get her married. So she calls for all the suitors. All right, everybody make your claim. So that's where I'm going to start reading, is where that's what's happening. The gods closed around her, shouting promises, pressing their claims. Earth-shaking Poseidon swung his mighty trident to clear a space about himself. I claim you for the sea, he said. You are sea-born, foam-born, and belong to me. I offer you grottos, riddles, gems, fair surfaces, dark surroundings. I offer you variety, drowned sailors, typhoons, sunsets. I offer you secrets. I offer you riches that the earth does not know, power more subtle, more fluid than the dull fixed land. Come with me, be queen of the sea. He slammed his trident on the floor, and a huge green tidal wave swelled out of the sea, high, high as Olympus, curling its mighty green tongue as if to lick up the mountain, and poised there, quivering, not breaking, as the gods gaped. Then Poseidon raised his trident, and the mighty wave subsided like a ripple. He bowed to Aphrodite. She smiled at him, but said nothing. So our first human example is Gertrude Ederle. She was the first woman to swim across the English Channel, which in and of itself is not the point. The point is, she was known as the Queen of the Waves. And the point is, she was born in Dolphin Decan, October 23rd. So she swam from France to England without stopping. And it's a very interesting story because there was troubles, there was waves, there was wind, but she made it. When she landed, it was a big deal at the time because this was a challenge that was put out to the world and only men had ever done it. But only 5 men had ever done it. The best time had been 16 hours and 33 minutes. Ederle walked up the beach at Kingsdown after 14 hours and 34 minutes. The first person to greet her was a British immigration officer who requested a passport from the bleary-eyed, waterlogged teenager. She was actually 20 years old. She wasn't a teenager. She was 20 years old when she did this. And when she got home to the United States, okay, from the United States, she was greeted with a ticker tape parade in Manhattan. Now, that's not small. If you get a ticker tape parade in Manhattan, and, you know, that's with 2 million, more than 2 million people lined the streets of the parade route called the Canyon of Heroes to cheer her. Her story just, I don't know, it tears me up every time. This is one of my favorite examples of the entire pantheon of time. I've been doing this for many, many years. I go through, I don't know, I think thousands of examples, but I find myself on that street watching her come down there after doing this. And it's just an amazing thing, because what a simple thing it is. But she did it. That's Dolphin Decan, and that is the Queen of the Waves. Second example also tears me up when I think about what this woman went through, is the Queen of the Falls, Niagara Falls. I think they're somewhere around 170 feet tall. The Horseshoe Falls, the Canadian side. It's like thunder. If you're ever there and you go on the Maid of the Mist, which I highly recommend, by the way, it's a once-in-a-lifetime trip. I mean, there are people from all over the world. It's one of the 8 wonders of the world. If you go to Niagara Falls, you have to get on the Maid of the Mist, and they take you right up to it, and you're going to see it. I'll put a video in the descriptor so you can feel that thunder, or you can just type in whatever. Just type in Niagara Falls Maid of the Mist. You'll get it. This woman was the first person to survive a trip over the Niagara Falls in a barrel, and she did it on her 63rd birthday. Come on. She's 63 years old. Why is she compelled to climb into a wooden barrel and go flying over the falls? She's a daredevil. This woman has no fear. She's gotten rid of her fear. The transition from Hermes to Aphrodite is this loss of fear. It evaporates. It's a grasping of the challenge of life. It's the willingness to throw yourself into the ocean and say, all right, damn it. It's up to you. I give myself to you. Do what you will. And how many times have I heard this, listening to examples of people in oceanic type adventures and people of this type. She was born October 24th. That's the day she went over the falls in a barrel. She was 63 years old. She had a good birthday because she came out with a knock on the head, but she came out. And you can see there on the bottom right, there was the Queen of the Mist, but she's not the Queen of the Mist. She's the Queen of the Falls. And there is absolutely no question about this. And no woman, well, there's been women that went over with other men. You can search that. I'll put that link in the descriptors. The one I have is a compilation of all the people that have tried it. We don't let people do that anymore. We've decided to stop it. She had problems. Nobody wanted to help her because they felt like it was assisted suicide. Nobody wanted to help her do it. But plenty of people wanted to be there at the bottom when she came out. Nobody had a problem doing that. But I don't know. She followed her soul, the beckoning of her soul, into the water. And she did it to conquer fear and to deliver that message. I don't know. I got a lot of respect for her. I don't know. You know, everybody can do what they want. That's an actual competitive swimmer, and I know Gertrude Ederle was too, although her feat was a little bit different. She wasn't swimming across the English Channel against other people. There's not a lot of swimmers in competitive swimming in Dolphin Decan that have won major medals and records and things. They kind of come from all over the pantheon. But this particular performance in 1981 by someone who was nicknamed Madam Butterfly, because the butterfly stroke is the style of swimming that actually has a motion described as a dolphin kick, and it's because the legs stay together and act as one, which is pretty much like a dolphin swims, without the arms, but pretty much how a dolphin swims. And her performance in 1981 is considered to be among the greatest sports performances ever. It's not just swimming, sports performances. So I thought that was noteworthy. She has an aquatic center named after her. I don't know if that's hers. I didn't check that. I just know that there's an aquatic center named after her, the Mary T. Meager Aquatic Center. She got her name picture on a Wheaties box. Wheaties is, if you get on the Wheaties box, that was a big deal back in the day, right? But her record in the 100 meter and 200 meter dolphin kick butterfly stood for almost 2 decades. That's a long time, and you know people were chasing that record. So she did that, and she gets a spot. This is a sculptor born October 23rd, and the inscription on the sculpture, which is a scallop. And a scallop is it's a symbol of the feminine principle of the sea. So the ocean is an emotion, and some of us are emotional creatures. I don't know if I include myself in that. Maybe, but definitely a feminine principle of the sea is the emotionality, the motion of the ocean. Maggie Hambling was, in my opinion, this is her sculpture that she did, but she dedicated it to a different person. She dedicated it to a composer named Benjamin Britten, and it became controversial. So art is always political. I thought it was brilliant that she made the art political by dedicating it to somebody, and yeah, why not? She had something to say. She put her stamp on it, and I think it's a great sculpture for that decan. And Mr. Britten was a homosexual and a conscientious objector during World War II, which wasn't real popular with other soldiers. But his, became controversial. Some people didn't want her to create this memorial to this, known homosexual and a conscientious objector, but she herself has described herself as lesbianic. So just keep an eye on these different trends through those first examples and see how it plays out. This is an architect, probably one of the best, not just what I would consider to be the best female architect in the world, although she's passed now, I believe, yeah. She was one of the best architects in the world, and she is known as the Queen of the Curve. So this queen, see how this queen keeps coming up? Well, she was born on October 31st, Dolphin Decan. These are her buildings. She was a very prolific designer. The top right, I believe, is a concept drawing, but the bottom right is the aquatic center, and on the left as well, the center left and bottom left, the aquatic center at the 2012 Olympics in London. And she was born in Dolphin Decan, and those are her designs. And you could say, well, it kind of looks like a dolphin breaking water there. That's what I would say. She's brilliant. I can't say enough about Zaha Hadid. She is brilliant, an absolute icon of our age in architecture. Sorely missed. So top left is her interior design. Top right is another conceptual drawing. I don't know if that was built. I didn't see any images of it, but she had a lot of concept drawings that were fantastic. You could do an image search if you're curious, but bottom left are some trophies that she designed for some music awards, pop music awards. They asked her to design some trophies, and that's what she came up with. And I thought, well, that's brilliant. That's when you know yourself. That's when you see yourself so clearly that it just comes out in everything you do. And that, to me, is the pinnacle of art. So the other aspect of watery expression is singing. right? Emotional singing, when you sing to the heavens, when you sing to your creator, you are singing. It's a very emotional thing. Some people, when they sing, can bring people to tears, and that's what's happening. What's happening when they do that? What's happening when you're listening to somebody and it causes you to shed tears? Water pours forth from your eyes, right? Joy, not just sadness, does this. So tears of joy or tears of connection, it's a big deal. Mahalia Jackson is the queen of gospel, and everybody knows it. So as far as the intention of singing to the heavens and to her creator, she nailed it. Harry Belafonte described her as the single most powerful black woman in the United States. That's pretty big. Right before Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech, she performed I've been buked and I've been scorned. And some say he was prompted by her cry, "Tell them about the dream, Martin." And she yelled this, according to the story. She yelled this to him, "Tell them about the dream." And so that, is potentially and quite likely the origin of that famous phrase by Martin Luther King, "I have a dream." But her life wasn't just about singing, unfortunately. In the United States, we've got a few problems. I'll bring it up when I see it, because that's what I see. Everywhere she went, the white owners and real estate agents would turn her away, claiming the house had already been sold or they changed their minds about selling. When she finally found a house, the neighbors were not happy. Shots were fired at her windows, and she had to contact the police for protection. I mean, who would do that to somebody that just has nothing but sweetness coming out of her vocal cords and has nothing but an intention coming out of her soul as Mahalia Jackson? It's disgusting, but she was an activist, so there she is. She's the queen of gospel, which really, when you consider Aphrodite and the Dolphin Decan, what we're really talking about here are sirens, right? The sirens that are on the shore that sing so sweetly that the sailors cannot help themselves. They have to see what it is. The sound is so enchanting and so beautiful, they can't help themselves. They're drawn to it against their own will. Helpless against their own mind. Driven. She is that siren. She did that. So we have to get into this now. So like I said in the beginning, Hermes and Aphrodite, there is a very abrupt movement of energy. This doesn't have anything to do with anybody's, it's not about people's intentions. People are helpless against this, just like you're helpless against a giant tidal wave comes and smashes your home, takes it away. You're not in charge of this. You don't have a choice. So these energies change every year. In between October 22nd, October, you could say October 21st, October 24th, right in that area is this massive change of energy. And it goes to hermaphroditus, where the son of Hermes and Aphrodite is born. That's what this is. So we have this in our world. It happens in all species. There's all kinds of species that do all this. It's time to stop being children and to start looking at what's in front of you. Have some awareness. Understand your world. Understand time. Understand the components of it. Where it is. I'm not saying this is the origin. This time is not the origin of homosexuality or bisexuality or any of that. I'm just saying this time actually is the time of Hermes going to Aphrodite. Now there's other times that mix this feminine and masculine energy, and I find it over and over again going through the pantheon of time. But in this particular situation, we definitely have a very noticeable situation here. Hermes mixing with Aphrodite. These are very real things. That's why the myths were written the way they were. So, here's Hermaphroditus. I mean, you cannot fault this person. In his first life, he was Hermes. He was the champion of the decathlon. And then he became the most famous transgender woman in the world. Caitlyn Jenner, born October 28th, Dolphin Decan. And I can't help but admit that they did a good job. I mean, what am I going to say? I'm just looking at the facts. I'm just following what's in front of me. I'm not... Who can judge? There it is. Dolphin Decan, October 28th. So, Hermes and Aphrodite have a son. Or a daughter. Or both. That's what's going on. At least with Caitlyn Jenner. That's what's going on. And I can respectfully give her the title of the Queen of the Decathlon. I have no problem doing that. Moving into the theatrical arts. Because I like to give a lot of examples. If you notice, I try, right, there's Gertrude Ederle. She swam across the channel. It wasn't a competition. Well, she kind of, yeah, it was competitive for her, but I'm saying it was a feat. It was a momentary thing to do. And then going over the falls was a thing, a single event, right? And then we get into these branches of art, sculpting and singing and all these examples. John Cleese is very well known. He's a member of a group of comedians called Monty Python, of which I suspect he is the leader, pretty much. But Monty, the full Monty, means nude, and the python is a snake. And he's born in Dolphin Decan, so he gets a huge mention here. I think he's brilliant. He's an activist. He's an icon in comedy and theater. I mean, their work speaks for itself. I think very few people have a problem with it. My personal favorite is of course, the Holy Grail. But one particular movie, which I want to put in here, that he did with Kevin Kline, who's also born in Dolphin Decan, was called A Fish Called Wanda. Now, in A Fish Called Wanda, there's a couple who are lovers, Wanda and Otto, But they hide this from the other two characters, and they pretend to be siblings. In other words, this is a couple who comes in and says, oh no, she's my sister, and then she works her charms on them, and they get away with a whole bunch of jewelry, and the gang escapes with a large sum in diamonds. So, you know, just keep that in mind as we get further along here. Very important. Like I said, I'm bringing you a whole boatload today. Kevin Kline, born October 24th. Samantha B, October 25th. They both enjoy a decent amount of humor in their theater. I think they're very serious artists, actually. I have no problem with the politicization of art. I think art should be political at every step of the way. In fact, I find that it's absolutely necessary for art to be political, because if we don't have art that is political, we don't get to use it for what it's intended for. So I think art should be political. But Kevin Kline, there he is. He's about to lose his head. That's in the Wild Wild West, I think, movie he starred in with, co-starred with another guy, Will Smith. Samantha B, there she is with Click the Box. She has Pandora's Box. That's another aspect of the Aphrodite thing, but the second decan of Scorpio is really more of the Pandora's Box situation. Kind of. I mean, that's where all the gifts, people want to bring, the girls in the first two decans of Scorpio get a lot of gifts. People just feel compelled to give them gifts. That's that whole mythology thing. It's really real. They really do. If you're a school teacher and you're born in the second decan of Scorpio, I'll bet you any amount of money that your children bring you more gifts than any other teacher in your entire hallway. Anyway, there she is in her special. Her show is called Full Frontal, which I thought very, much in line with Dolphin Decan. Her first comedic group was called Atomic Fireball, and that's kind of like the testicles of Uranus being thrown into the ocean. The Atomic Fireball, sure, yeah, works. A couple of good comedians. The producer director, in the mind of Ang Lee, he continues to explore a lot of human relationships, the perplexities that sexuality causes in society. I don't think he's gross with it. I think he's very truthful and honest with it. I think he's a very good artist. I rewatched The Life of Pi prior to doing this. I didn't think I could deliver this information unless I watched that movie, because I think that is probably the rawest form of Ang Lee's mind, The Life of Pi. And it's the story of a man who is on a boat full of people and animals, and he survives. He's the only one that survives. This is another thing about this decan, and it carries over into other cycles that are adjacent to this cycle. There's things that happen for whatever reason, and people do not drown. It's a bizarre thing, and it is definitely trackable. It is a big deal. It's going to be seen over and over and over. By the time I'm done with the 36 decans, and by the time I'm done with the 20 days and the Tricinas after that, there is not going to be any question about what part of time this is specifically occurring. So, but the life of Pi, the tiger to me is the snake. The snake of the tail of a tiger in the Chinese, some of the Chinese mythology, or even in their symbolic writings, the tail of the tiger actually symbolizes the snake. Instead of saying a snake, they might say the tail of a tiger, because it's dangerous. You don't, and you know, it looks very much like a snake, and it's striped. A lot of snakes are striped, and it's, you know, don't step on the tail of a tiger, turn around and bite you. Same thing with a snake. But there it is, life of Pi. The ice storm, sense and sensibility, lust, caution, all kinds of. He's a brilliant, not small artist. Pablo Picasso, again, this whole time, this 10-day time period is just cram-packed with extremely prolific artists of all types. I could probably do 30 hours just going through the painters of this Decan, but I just went with the, you know, got to go with a few of the top ones. And Picasso, obviously everybody knows him, so he is born in Dolphin Decan. When I look at his paintings, I see him painting himself. That's him. All those girls in that painting are him. The cubism is this aspect of the disturbed water. Like, so in the water, when you're in the water, this is the first place you're going to see yourself. Okay, before there was actual mirrors with glass and silver, there was water. All the animals, everybody can see themselves in the water. But if there's a slight breeze blowing across that water, which is what you need to get to the other shore, you don't want completely still water. You want a little wind in your sail. But when you have a little bit of wind, that reflection gets distorted just a little bit, doesn't it? So he paints that very slight distortion in the water with the ripples of a breeze. It's nothing unusual. It's nothing bizarre. It's extremely natural. There's a ripple in the water, and it causes a minor distortion in your reflection. That's his favorite chair. Thought that was a good photo to include. I guess, I don't know, somebody said he always likes that chair. I try to stay away from hearsay and stuff like that, but I mean, I guess because he looks pretty happy in it, and I have no reason to not believe it. But there's the chair, and there's the Hindu drawing. Like I say, they always have very specific geometry that was intuited by the artist, whoever drew these charcoal drawings. It's a spiritual process. It's a process that's been duplicated in many cultures, many times, over thousands of years. It's a known thing. So, but there he is looking at his reflection in the mirror. The distortions of time, the reflection of the water, the portal into another world, right? A lot of people, as probably man's or humankind's first idea when they looked into the water and recognized their reflection, that they were entering the portal to another world. Very famous author Ursula Le Guin, born October, I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if it's Le Guin. I didn't look up the pronunciation. I haven't read any of her books. It's another embarrassment, but hey, so what? She's famous enough. I don't have to read her books to use her as an example. I can just look at the covers. That's all I need. And what she did, there she is. She's the grand master of science fiction and fantasy writers of America. She's got all these awards. She's got a book with a cover and the title says The Farthest Shore. She's got the Earth Sea Trilogy. She's got a giant wave towering over a boat with a sail. She's got a mirror image in the left hand of darkness. I mean, what more do you need? There's a dragon in the water. I mean, this is what you see. But apparently, she's pretty well known. And she did deal with, again, this running theme of dealing with sexuality in artistic expression and probably causing some political discussion about these things during a very, what I consider to be transformative time during the era of the counterculture, or the, you know, she's got it all going on. October 21st, Dolphin Decan. There you go. Then we get into these. There's actually a thing. It's actually a French thing. Might be in other countries, I don't know, but there's a French thing. They call them dolphins. And it actually means dolphin. The dauphin and the dauphine of France are those who are in line to the throne, right? So they got a shield, they got some dolphins on it. Louis, the son of Louis XIV, he died before he became king, but because he was in line for the throne, he's known as the Grand Dauphin. And he was born November 1st. I thought, wow, that's interesting. There was other Grand Dauphins and other dolphins who were not born on November 1st, but that's his portrait. I thought it was pretty compelling. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, you know, what was up with that age where everybody wanted to wear wigs, right? I don't know what was going on then. I don't know where that originated. Haven't looked into it, but I thought it was interesting. Wouldn't surprise me to find that it started something similar, or even there itself. But Marie Antoinette lost her head. She was the Dauphine of France, last Queen of France. There's that Queen title again. The whole thing was, she wasn't from France. Remember, this is the Decan of Dolphin, the Hindu descriptor, expelled from her homeland. But she wasn't from France. But they definitely didn't like her. They decided they didn't like her. They kicked her out. They chopped her head off. I guess the whole thing came to a head because of some treasure, a necklace that had been commissioned. And then, I don't know, turned into a scandal. She had a scandal with this extremely flamboyant expenditure over a necklace that she did not originate herself, but she ended up with it, and the people turned against her, chopped her head off. Last Queen of France. We get into this Medusa angle, right? There's a story about Medusa with the snakes coming out of her head. What's that all about? Her eyes are strong. The strong eyes. There's all kinds of stories about the eyes. It starts back with the Eye of Horus, which is the second decan of Libra, and then when you get into the first couple of decans of Scorpio, you have Medusa, where you can just hold up her head. If she looks at you, you're going to turn into stone. What's that all about? It's because they have strong eyes. There's also another phrase about Scorpios, the averted gaze. And it's true. If you study these things and look at them, it's kind of true. It's not kind of true. It's definitely true. But yeah, turn you to stone. The sirens beckoning the sailors from the sea. The gaze, the beauty, the desire. On and on and on. This is the Medusa thing, but that's actually they depicted her as the beast and drew her with snakes coming out of her head and a four-legged beast, which, you know, I said, wow, that's actually pretty intuitive. That's like all three decans of Scorpio rolled into one. What's wrong with that? I don't find a problem with it. Okay, so because I'm a New Yorker, I do have a problem with this lady. I mean, New York didn't need, we have 30 million people. We don't need to go to Arkansas to find a senator. But she, again, I don't know, for whatever reason, she leaves Arkansas, comes to New York to become a senator in New York, Democratic state. That's fine, okay, whatever. I didn't appreciate it. I thought, we got 30 million people, really? We can't find, we only get 2 senators, but okay. But she, you know, this is a figure, personality in our U.S. politics that came, basically, her story's full of reaching a foreign shore. And then the people turned against her. And, you know, she might go down in history as a mistake that caused Donald Trump. Like, her, because everybody interfered on her behalf, or she, you know, was doing what she was doing, I don't know, but whatever, she got in there. There's a book that claims what happened. I don't know. There's all kinds of pictures and memes. And oh, the one thing I want to mention is that there was one nickname that she got that I took a little offense to. I'm pretty familiar with Dolphin Decan. I'm also married to one. I married Aphrodite. Is Cankles. They called her Cankles. They called her Cankles because her calves seem to go like right down into her ankles, and that's actually a physical trait, because there are physical traits that go with these decans, and that is one of them for dolphin. And isn't that, it shouldn't be surprising if you ever look at the back end of a dolphin, you know, that it's not a very slow taper, it's a sudden, right, the taper of the back part of the dolphin before it reaches the fins. So it's not uncommon to see people in this decan. It's an identifying feature. I'm not saying everybody has it, or anybody that does have it is necessarily born in this time. I'm just saying it's something to watch for. It's how you spot avatars. But some people born in this decan do have that longer calf on the back of their leg that goes down with quite a bit of strength. So Kathy Griffin took a lot of flack for this type of political art. Secret Service went to her house. They shut her down for a while. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't think you go after people for art. That was the first sign that we might have ourselves a demagogue. Actually, it wasn't the first sign. That was the first confirmation of what he was going to do in office. He's going to use his power to go after political enemies, and that's exactly what they did with Kathy Griffin. What other comedian posing for a single image was investigated by the Secret Service? Almost had her entire career ruined. Definitely got disturbed because of the childish emotionality and frailty of someone who is the most powerful leader of the most powerful country. You know, come on, it's just ridiculous. But nobody said anything when they were circulating Trump holding up Hillary's head. So a shout out to Kathy Griffin. I thought she did the right thing. I'll print that picture every chance I get. I thought it was an abuse of power to go after her. Obviously, government and Donald Trump personally should compensate her for that. Here's a couple of guys born in Dolphin Decan. They're twins. These guys got rich. They went, this is the treasure, right? Don't forget there's treasure. Poseidon's going to give her treasure beyond her wildest dreams. That's their house. Their house is a castle on an island that looks just like the seashore in the images of everything that's ever been talked about, with Aphrodite coming out of the waves onto the shore, on and on and on. The Barclay twins, they got their start, I think they started making most of their money in shipping. They live on the Isle of Sark. They own the Ritz. A lot of controversy. Whatever. They like their privacy. That's another aspect of this Decan is, you know, they kind of like their privacy. They might like some alone time. Aphrodite married the simple smith because he worked late. So there is an aspect of people wanting to be alone and to be not bothered. In this Decan, there's a certain loneliness to the sea. You'll see it in all the art. Gertrude Ederle was alone. Annie Edson Taylor was alone. A lot of people spend time alone in the sea when you're on your quest. But, I guess the one brother's children were caught spying on the other brother, and oh boy, I don't know. I don't get into the drama, but there's plenty of drama there. There's plenty of money, and there they are. Twins born in Dolphin. Rich, very, very rich. They own the Ritz, or they sold it. Last I knew, they were trying to sell it. I don't know. Not updated on it. I don't enjoy studying those types of examples, but I use them. Okay, so what are we looking at? Oh my god, boy, this is one Decan. We got the two, these are the only two guys, right? So, Bill Gates, Tim Cook, I don't know. Are those the two biggest guys in computers? Pretty sure. One's a window, the other's an apple from the tree of knowledge. Pretty prolific. I think the one on the left is a lot richer than the one on the right. But this is the aspect of Scorpio that is the mystery and the portals, the peering into the water, the crystal ball, right? This magic, the crystal ball, the pool of the future, right? You pour the water into the mirror and you can see the future. You can open a portal in time. There's a portal in time in October 31st, isn't there? Look at, right, these guys are on either side of that portal, October 31st. That's, right, that's the Day of the Dead. The first Decan of Scorpio is known as the House of the Dead, because, and all I'm going to tell you, everybody find what they want, but I do find that some of these people born during that time do like to walk in cemeteries. Like, they're fascinated with the past or the dead or the cemeteries or just any of these things. But yeah, that's what Halloween is. It's the festival of the Day of the Dead. But I see it as the portal into the other world. A portal into the obsidian mirror. And that's what these guys provide. They put it on everybody's desk. They put it everywhere. It's all over the world. There it is. Like water. Water goes everywhere. Flows. But that's the connection that I see with these guys. They're on either side of that portal. They have slightly different views about it. And you get deeper into other cycles and you can really see that shine. These guys are very specific examples, and they're right next to each other, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. This is the founder of judo. I could try to pronounce his name. Again, I don't look up pronunciations very often. I look at what people do. I look at their product. So I guess according to that, I would say Kano Jigoro. Okay. October 28th. He's the founder of judo. Now, Microsoft, right? And this is the doctrine of softness. And water is forgiving, isn't it? Like the whole concept of forgiveness is softness. Whereas the hardness or the unforgiving nature of a brick wall is the opposite, right? So as long as you're not too high in the air, if you hit water, you're really pretty much undamaged. But don't try that with concrete. So it's the softness, the doctrine of softness. He is a master. This guy is a legitimate master of our time. He should have a lot more recognition. There's true masters walking on this earth. There's a few of them in this decan, quite a few actually. But this is wrestling meets martial arts. So it was all about the fluidity and the flow of taking advantage of the opponent's loss of equilibrium. So you get them to move one way and you move the other way. The fireman's carry. I was a wrestler for some time. The fireman's carry was always my signature move, and it's really just about getting one leg a little off balance, and then the weight of the other person comes across to your shoulders and you just roll like a wave. It really is like the motion of a wave, where you just roll and you carry that person just like a wave carries a stick, throws it on the shore. And that's the founder of judo. Very, very good example for this decan. Richard Byrd. You know, whenever the military's involved and they're doing these things, yeah, I'm sure he went to these foreign shores on a ship, and it's very indicative of the Dolphin Decan. I'm not going to back up any claims about how far he got or any of that. I don't know. I didn't read his book where it says alone. See, here's that loneliness again. He wasn't alone. Looks like he had a whole entourage. He had a fully funded expedition. I guess he might have felt alone, but had the whole country paying for it and looking out for him. Went to the polar regions of the planet. At the time, not really a thinkable thing to do without that kind of funding, but pretty interesting example. His next assignment was to the gunboat USS Dolphin. I thought that was hilarious. But again, that's what happens. Bob Ross, I think the big thing with him, why he's an icon of this decan, is the prolific nature and the softness of his presentation. He's like the founder of judo, right? I mean, he is all about making this a delightful experience. This is not going to be a problem. This is a very loving Aphrodite dude. He's using the wet on wet technique, which is, I find that to be very watery. It's difficult to do with oil. A lot of people don't like it, but he did it. I think it is definitely a trick to it. I don't know, not that into it, but I've watched his videos, and not all of them. I've watched a few of his videos. He's a joyful guy. He's full of joy. He's happy. He's showing people how to paint. Everybody loved him. He makes it look really easy. I think when somebody can take a bunch of liquid, I don't care what it's made out of, they take liquid and turn it into something. They create this image. He's drawing you into this portal, into another world, effortlessly, using colored liquid. That's pretty dolphin-y. There's another master. Probably the most, I don't know if I want to say he's more of a master than the founder of judo, but he definitely is studying deeper knowledge of a different type. Now this is the man who, this is Hokusei. This is Katsushika Hokusei. This is the guy I use all the time. His 36 views of Mount Fuji are the 36 decans. That is the Japanese representation of the series of images that I use. I have 36 images from the Hindu. I have 36 descriptors along with hexagram images from the Chinese. We have the Altar 5 from Tikal for the Maya. We have the Dendera Zodiac from the Egyptians. I mean, there's a lot of examples of the 36 decans. They're much more specific, as you may be noticing if you've been watching this long, that they're much more specific than the zodiac signs, which really are kind of basic. They're pretty basic when you get into this study. Hokusei was a guy who was an artist for a long time, and then he went off to study under, I think it's called the Lotus Sutra, which is the highest learning in the Buddhism tradition. So when you get into these higher traditions in any esoteric or theological study, you end up with these cycles. That's what we're doing right here. We're in a new time, so it's available. But that's his painting, A Feminine Wave. A lot of people are very familiar with the Great Wave off Kanagawa, or however, again, don't slaughter me over the pronunciations because I'm not good at that, but everybody says the Great Wave off Kanagawa, oh, this is the best one. Like, everybody knows that one, but it's really him, because I'm going to show you why that painting is the first decan of Aries at the Great Wave off Kanagawa. But this guy could paint his own decan. He could also, when he learned the others, he could paint all the other decans. Water goes everywhere. That's one thing about water, is it goes everywhere. Even in the desert, there's water. So Hokusei is a master. This is the Great Wave off Kanagawa. So this is in the series of the 36 views of Mount Fuji. It's number 1. That is the first decan of Aries. The men in the boat have their heads down. I'll be able to show when I do that decan just how perfect that fits right in. But through Hokusei's interpretation, he's got the Great Wave. It's going to, this is hunkering down time. This is a great amount of energy. Mount Fuji's in the background. Look at the wave. The wave is bigger than Mount Fuji. So it's the inception of time at the vernal equinox is a great wave of energy. That's why he did that. Here's the first 18 views of Mount Fuji. I've bringing them here, showing you the exact alignment with the zodiac and the decans. I'm open for debate, but I don't think it's necessary. It's pretty straightforward. These images are going to show themselves one at a time. It's not, I really don't think it's a debatable topic. I mean, to be honest with you, it's like so simple. Even the first 3 decans of Aries, you can see there's a great wave of energy. The second decan is very calm, but there's energy, a great amount of power in the mountain. That's horse decan, so there's the horse power. And then in the third decan is the driver. This is where the mountain cracks open at the base and the lava spills out, and the village has to go running. And on it goes. I will be doing these one at a time. I use Hokusei along with the Hindu images, primarily the I Ching and the Tarot, some of the others secondarily, but primarily the human, the real world human examples, and you will see how they tie into these images over and over and over. And it's just a fact of life. It's just basic science. We've known this for thousands of years. It's not new. It's not even close to being new. It's just not talked about very much. I don't know. It's kind of discouraging. But anyways, there's the first decan of Scorpio. Now, the upper left, if you go to the 36 views of Mount Fuji on Wikipedia, get the full-size images. You'll see the third decan of Libra. It's going to be Hermes. And it's an image of a guy carving into stone. So that's the important part to know about third decan of Libra. It's where the weight, the measure of the scales, the accounting, the sums, and the final accounting is carved into stone. And then everything goes out into the water, and Aphrodite washes up on the shore. Here comes the feminine. And Scorpio number 2 there, you'll see there's towers, the water. Hokusei does a brilliant job. This guy's a genius. Number 3 is lion, and there's men on horseback rushing out to the sea, a road along the sea. They're rushing out. Great energy, protection. Go get them. They're not delivering something. They're chasing somebody. That's my opinion. On and on it goes. They match very well, and I show how the last 4 are the warning decans. Second decan Libra, second decan Aquarius, third decan Pisces, first decan Leo. That's the order in which they're listed in the 36 views of Mount Fuji, and that is the order they are listed in Genesis, the book of Genesis. Yes, that's true. Now, the parallels between Genesis 20 and Numbers 20. Numbers 20, 36 chapters of Numbers. They are the 36 decans. The 50 chapters of Genesis are the 36 decans, but the first 36 chapters of Genesis is all you ever need to worry about. The last 14 chapters of Genesis, it starts over again. It goes to number 14. Genesis ends up on number 14 decan. It makes 50 even chapters. There's a reason why they cut that off. We're not going to get into that right now. That's a whole discussion of itself. But chapter 20 of Genesis and chapter 20 of Numbers are both descriptors of Dolphin Decan. They're just slightly different, but they both start with women, Sarah and Miriam. And in Genesis in particular, Genesis 20 is where Sarah gets mixed up in a whole bunch of, she pretends to be his sister. And they get a whole bunch of stuff, just like in A Fish Called Wanda. And it's a recurring storyline. These are recurring storylines, just like we have recurring events, things people do, traits, looks, products. There's recurring storylines too. So that's what it's about. That's what the whole idea of this, keeping this knowledge, is to maintain that knowledge of that. So chapter 20, she gets mixed up in a bunch of marriage questions. I think the whole family, they can't have any babies until they resolve this, so they give her a whole bunch of stuff, and they really don't explain this at all very well in the story. It's like, all of a sudden, there goes Sarah and her husband, they're riding off with a whole bunch of stuff. Just like A Fish Called Wanda. It's a successful heist, because they pretended she was his sister. It happens a couple different times. Now, we'll be able to explain that. Numbers chapter 20, Miriam dies. That's the first thing they say. Miriam dies. And then here goes Poseidon, throws down his staff upon the rock, and the water comes out. See? Remember, Poseidon controls the water with his staff, or his trident. Moses controls the water with his staff. It is the same mythology. It is told in the same sequence. It is unmistakable. I mean, all I have to do is I say, oh yeah, just show me everywhere Moses uses his staff with the water. That's all I need to know. And in Exodus, I'm not listing that one today, that's a different thing, because those are the days he uses his staff in Exodus. Right on a certain day that's right adjacent to Dolphin Decan. These days and decans, they work together. Separate cycles, and they work together. Like I said, I'm throwing a whole boatload of treasure on today. This is an image of this Dendera zodiac in Egypt. It is a feminine calendar. This is the calendar of the Chronos and the feminine. And the falcons, which is the second decan of Libra, are holding it up, and that means Hermes is the one who carved it. And that's Aphrodite who's got the full measure of it. Care whatever people say. And I take the, if you notice, I'll just talk while this is playing and you can watch. Notice how this works with the male and the female. This is the Aztec sunstone, or what I call the Mayan stone. The Maya, the Quiche Maya, say the Olmecs brought them the 20 days 6,000 years ago. So I figured these two work together. These stones are designed by the same hands. They have the same, they're different cycles, although the Dendera zodiac does have the 20 days in it. Get into this, I'll do a whole video about it, but these two stones work together. This is Hermaphrodites. This is the Hermaphrodites of time. This is Hermes and Aphrodite working together under Kronos or something. But these work together. These people had this knowledge. This came from Egypt, West Africa. You throw a raft into the ocean off the coast of Lagos, you'll end up in Belize pretty easily. Any dolphin could do it. That's for sure. Wouldn't think anything of it. Plenty of people cross the Atlantic in a rowboat. Not a big deal. buy into the whole, oh, it's the first time. No, thousands, thousands, and thousands, and thousands, and it happens over and over and over. And this knowledge is always preserved. It's carved into stone. When she reaches the shore, she brings forth the treasures of the sea. The mighty Aphrodite.